It's Tim Cheesy for TechSpot here, and this is the HP Spectre, the self-proclaimed world's thinnest laptop. And I have to say, this is perhaps the most impressive laptop that I have reviewed this year. It's a really fantastic device. I think a lot of people will be very interested in this, especially up against other thin and light laptops in the market space, like for example, the Apple 12-inch MacBook. The thinness of this laptop is immediately apparent as soon as you take it out of the box. At just 10.4 millimeters thick and 1.1 kilograms heavy, it's extremely portable. It is a little bit larger in terms of its overall footprint compared to the Dell XPS 13, but for a 13-inch class laptop, you really can't ask for more in terms of how easy it is to carry this device around. You slip it into a laptop backpack or even just carrying it around, and you barely notice the HP Spectre there. It's a truly marvelous piece of engineering in terms of how they've been able to cram all that hardware into such a slim body. HP has really gone all out designing the Spectre, and it's perhaps the most attractive product I've ever seen from them. The gold copper highlights around the edges of the keys really complements the brown-black metal design, and that shiny gold strip along the back gives this device a premium look and feel that is only surpassed by a small selection of laptops on the market today. In my opinion, it looks even better than the full metal body of the Apple MacBook, and it's really a true testament to HP's design team that they've managed to achieve this, and in my opinion, it's easily the best looking Windows laptop I've ever used. My praise for the design doesn't just end there though, because HP has crafted a hinge on this laptop that makes the display look like it's floating just a little bit above the base, and I really appreciate that design choice here. I also really love the new HP logo. I think it's really modern and classy and suits the overall design to the Spectre, and those vents along the back edge, another tick to the design team from HP. One of the areas I worried would be compromised in such a thin laptop is the keyboard, but on the HP Spectre this is completely not the case. This laptop has one of the nicest iron style keyboards I've ever used. It has a really solid, clicky tactile feedback to each of the keys, and coming from a mechanical keyboard that I usually use on my desktop, this fits right in, and it also has a fantastic layout that makes transitioning from the desktop to laptop keyboards a real breeze. I was also pleased with the trackpad. It's quite responsive when you turn up the sensitivity just slightly, gestures work well, and I was typically quite pleased with the size. That said, there are some compromises to using such a thin laptop. The only ports found on this device are 3 USB-C ports, 2 of which are Thunderbolt 3 and of course come with USB 3.1 Gen 2. There's also a third port which is not Thunderbolt 3 but still supports USB 3.0. You can use all 3 of those ports for charging, which is fantastic to see, and there's a 3.5mm headphone jack, but the main downside here is there's no full-size USB, which is still the main standard used today for accessories, so you'll need to carry around the adapter that's included in the box if you want to use like an external mouse for example, or you'll need to buy an adapter separately if you want to use things like HDMI. In the future this won't be so much of an issue with the HP Spectre, but just for now, having the device limited to just USB-C ports is a little bit of a downside. Another aspect to this device that I thought would be compromised having seen Apple's 12-inch MacBook is the performance, but again, that's completely not the case with the HP Spectre. You get fully fledged Core i CPUs inside this device from Intel, so for example in my review unit I have a Core i5 6200U which delivers pretty solid performance throughout the operating system and in general applications that you'll be using on a day-to-day basis. It's around 30 to 40% more powerful than the Core M CPUs we see in slim tablets and also that 12-inch MacBook, and that gives you a decent amount more performance, which really helps in things like if you're editing large Excel spreadsheets, if you're having to do some MATLAB simulations, if you're editing photos and videos, you'll want that performance from the Core i5 CPU that this laptop provides. I was also quite pleased to see HP give an option to upgrade it to a Core i7 CPU. That costs you about $80 extra, but the fact that the RAM in this laptop is still limited to 8GB might be a little bit of an issue for some people who want maybe 16GB or upwards. I was also pleased with the rest of the hardware that comes inside the HP Spectre. The Wi-Fi performance was really solid from that Intel chip in there. We're also seeing a Samsung NVMe PCIe SSD which starts at 256GB as standard. Really fantastic performance here, and of course you can upgrade that to 512GB for around about $250. I was also quite happy with the display on the HP Spectre. It's a 13.3-inch 1080p IPS LCD. And while it's not necessarily as high resolution as some of its competitors, there are really good things about this display that I want to praise. For example, it comes close to replicating the correct sRGB spectrum, making it a solid device for creative professionals who need color accuracy, but at the same time it looks fantastic because there's Good brightness, a really solid contrast ratio with deep blacks, and the glossy finish makes those colors pop really nicely and gives really solid viewing angles, making this display one of my favorites that I've seen in laptops of this year. Unfortunately, while this display is coated with that glossy finish, there is no touchscreen here, which might come as a bit of a disappointment for people who wanted that touch functionality. I suspect HP has made this decision for a number of reasons. The touchscreen would add weight and thickness in a laptop they're trying to make as portable as possible, and also it would hurt the battery life just slightly. And as we know, there's just a 38 watt-hour cell inside the HP Spectre, and battery life isn't too good in general, so they probably would have omitted that to keep that battery life as good as it possibly could be. I don't necessarily think the battery life is bad. You'll get around 6 to 7 hours of good usage out of this laptop, but considering some of the competitors like even Apple's 12-inch MacBook, my Dell XPS 13, my Surface Book, and those sort of products, those get better battery life than the Spectre, but that's one of the trade-offs that you have to judge up when you're trying to decide whether you want this laptop. Do you want the thinness and the reduced battery life, or would you like something that looks a little bit worse like the XPS 13, but has that little bit better battery life? And this brings me to the end of my review of the Spectre, and in my opinion, HP has done all the right things when designing a thin and light laptop. Yes, this is just 10.4 millimeters thick and just 1.1 kilos heavy, making it a really portable device, but they haven't compromised on the things that matter to everyday users like me. I want a good keyboard in my ultra portable laptop, and HP has completely delivered here with the Spectre. I also don't want to see performance compromise. I want to still be able to edit photos, edit documents, and browse the web on this laptop, and again, HP has delivered with the use of fully fledged Intel Skylake processors in here. And this is something that Apple hasn't managed to achieve with their 12-inch MacBook that just uses the weaker Core M processors. I was also very pleased with the design of the HP Spectre. I didn't really rate HP as a company for producing beautiful products like this, but the Spectre is a phenomenally designed product. I really like the use of those copper gold highlights around this device, and it looks premium and feels premium. It's a really solid device there. I also like the display. It's 1080p, it's IPS, it has really good color accuracy, and even though it's not as crisp as some competing devices and doesn't have that touchscreen, it's still a joy to use this laptop. There are some downsides. There's no full-size USB port because this device is simply too thin for that, so you're stuck with just USB-C, which isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, and battery life is definitely a couple of notches below some of the competing laptops in the Ultrabook market, and that's just something that you have to weigh up when purchasing this device. I was also quite pleased with the price. It starts at $1,169 for the Core i5 CPU and the 256GB SSD, which puts it firmly in the same price category as competing laptops. There's nothing to complain about there, and you'll even save $100 if you were perhaps considering the 12-inch MacBook. So overall, this laptop is a really big hit. I think it is one of the best laptops that HP has ever made, and it could be my favorite laptop of 2016 so far. And that's it for my review of the HP Spectre. I've managed to make it through even though I'm on the verge of getting the flu. Don't forget to check back on TechSpot.com for the full written review. You can find all the benchmarks in there comparing this device to some of the latest laptops on the market. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. There'll be more video reviews coming in the future. Thanks everyone. This has been a TechSpot video review.